And joining us right now on the Relevant North, the Phoenix guest line from Inquirer.com, writing all things every day. My man, Matt Breen, joins us right now from Inquirer.com. What's up, Matt?
What's up, Mark? How you been?
I've been excellent, and I know I texted you this already, but just for public consumption, this story is fantastic that you wrote in Inquirer.com. People can check this out right now. It's on my timeline as well. And you concentrate on Rhys Hoskins. Absolutely. And you know I'm a fan of yours, and this story on Rhys Hoskins, I think, is picture perfect when it comes to what he has meant to the organization. And it kind of got the ball rolling in my head about, I hate to use this term, but sort of false prophets, like guys that were supposed to come in and kind of help turn the page to the next generation of winning Phillies baseball. And the one guy that jumps to mind is, Tommy Joseph was the guy that was supposed to be the next guy. And then Rhys Hoskins came out, and as you referenced in the story, Rhys Lightning started up. He set the bar very high for himself. And here he is being a huge foundation piece to a lot of free agents that sure came here, or trades that came here to help this Phillies team win. But Rhys Hoskins has been here through it all, as you chronicle in the piece.
Yeah, this rebuild started in earnest, like going into the 2015 season. And Rhys Hoskins, Aaron Nolan, Zach Eflin are the only ones that survived, really. That were there in the beginning, and they were in that conversation of could be the next contending Phillies team. It took a lot longer than we expected, but they're the only guys that made it. And I think there's something said to be said for that. And Rhys Hoskins, ever since he really, even before he got to the big leagues, he was in the minor leagues, has been the same guy, always approachable, stand-up guy. And then when he gets to the big leagues, he's day one. They have nobody else on this team that is marketing, is able to be marketed, or is able to, really hold it, like stand and speak for the team in an interview. And he was the guy right on. And he didn't shy away from it. He embraced it. He understood that was, kind of came with the territory. And he's reaping the benefits of it now that, he's here and they're going to the World Series and he's playing a huge role in it. So it's neat to see. It's neat to see. I met him when he was going into Double-A in spring training, and now you're seeing him in the National League Championship Series. I mean, the World Series, with the big moments in the National League Championship Series. And like I said, nothing's changed. The same guy that was 7-8 years ago, which is crazy to think.
I mean, I referenced the other day on the show when I was talking about Hoskins and his success in the postseason and 5 home runs and all that. I was talking about him and Dylan Cousins down there in the minor leagues. We're supposed to be the Bash brothers coming up here to the majors. Didn't work out, unfortunately, for Cousins, but of course here it's certainly working out.
Football, or at least trying to.
Is that what he's doing? Like arena football or something?
No, he tried to make it. I don't know if he's still trying, but he tried to transition to the NFL. He was like a big time high school football recruit in Arizona when he signed with the Phillies.
That's right.
And he had a tryout or a visit with the Patriots within the last year. That's when it happened. I mean, nothing's came of it. Who knows? Maybe it will down the line. But yeah, right. It was those two. They were. That was the next sluggers for the Phillies, and one's here and one's playing football.
Now I'm gonna have to go check the CFL and see if he turned up there. But yeah, those there you go.
The Scottish Claymores.
I'll look up. I got to find this out. I totally forgot about that, but I remember he was a big football player. I forgot that he was getting an NFL tryout. You're right. But yeah, those were two guys that were supposed to come up and kind of be that next generation. But with Rhys Hoskins, one of the things, and when you were a beat writer with the team every day, and you're doing great feature pieces now for Inquirer.com, but you were there when there was a lot of transition, not just with the roster, but the coaching staff, the front office. And my take on it from afar was that he was getting told a lot of different messages in a time he was really trying to develop as a Major League Baseball player. And that, I think, threw him off. What is your take on Rhys Hoskins versus the guy that we saw originally belt the, 11 home runs in 14 days, whatever it was? Or what was that like to watch that maturation process and then see where he's at now? Do you think the different messages kind of messed with his swing and approach a little bit?
I think this is he always was a guy with like a patient approach at the plate, and it just so happened that approach led to home runs and home runs in bunches that summer when he came up. But what you see now is probably what Rhys Hoskins always would be, ability to hit home runs at a decent rate, but not a guy that's hitting 17 and 34 games.
Right.
So, but the changes and stuff, like you can't ignore that. 2017, he's awesome. He's the best player on the team. He's the most exciting thing. He opens up the next season playing left field. It's like, that's what happened. And I'm sure he took it with class and he worked his butt off that spring training, shagging fly balls every morning before anybody got there. It didn't work out because he's a first baseman, but it's just like, what were they thinking? Like, it's not, that was where, there's so many mistakes along the line. And I think that was a part of like playing fantasy baseball or playing the show when that's not what it works out. Like, well, we can just hide this guy, even though he's our best player. We're going to say, we appreciate you by sticking you in left field. It's like, and signing Carlos Santana.
Oh my God.
That's what happened. Yeah, I mean, but he dealt with it. He obviously he played for Pete Mackanin. He played for Gabe Kapler. He played for Joe Girardi. Now he's playing for Rob Thompson. He's seen all these managers. The change in front office, which we all know about. He, survived that, and here he is. It's all this change, and there's the one constant is Rhys Hoskins is besides for one season, is your first baseman.
Mm-hmm. And I referenced this earlier in the show, but I want to show it one more time because it's great, particularly this part about Hoskins' bat spike when he hit the 3-run home run against the Braves in Game 3 of that NLDS, emphatically spiking his bat to the ground, seeming to release the frustrations he shared with the fans as they waited together to finally feel the moments like this. I mean, that I think sums it up. And that's one of the things I don't think enough people thought about is it's almost like we've looked past Rhys Hoskins with additions like Bryce Harper or JT Realmuto and getting Zach Wheeler. It's almost like we forgot about him for a second because he wasn't the main cornerstone piece, but he has certainly been the guy to be with this franchise the longest and been a guy that this franchise relied on the longest.
Yeah. And he embraced the city. Like, not many athletes do. A lot of guys love Philly and they talk about Philly. Rhys Hoskins and his now wife lived here in the offseason. They didn't go home to California. They wanted to live here. They wanted to set up shop here. A lot of guys, they live here during the season with their family. They go home in the winter. He stayed here, and I think there's something to that. He learned about Philly. He, considers this home, and he's from Sacramento, but he considers Philadelphia home, and he understands that he got booed on the Game 3 of the DS, which was stupid to boo the guy. It didn't make sense. But he understood it. And when he spiked the bat, like, it wasn't like just like I hit a sweet home run. It was, I've been through all these years and like, we're finally here, first October game in a long time. And I'm hitting this huge home run that was so tense that game. And that's why it exploded the way it did, because everybody was so tight after they lose Game 2. You come in there and the ballpark was rocking, but it was tight. You could feel how tense it was. Just like it was for Game 3 of the CS. And he hit that home run. It was like, the lid exploded. And when he spiked the bat, it was because he felt it too. He's probably coming in tight and nervous and tense. He hits that home run and just like all the tension blew out of the room. And it was cool. It was like that was the perfect guy to hit that home run because he's been here. He's not a mercenary, came up through the system. He's been here forever. And then he's in the biggest moment, kind of that set the tone for the rest of the way.
Yeah, and anytime you get, the guy in front of you gets walked, it means I'm not afraid of the next guy. And the next guy was Rhys Hoskins, and he said, "Fear me now," basically. Yeah. Now, where are you at right now with your disbelief, or have you believed this the whole time that the Phillies are actually, Matt, in the World Series? Where are you at that this 87-win team is now competing for a World Series championship with the Astros starting Friday?
I saw it coming the whole way. I mean, I was saying in June, I said, Rob Thompson, great call. They're going to the World Series. You can't believe this, right? I mean, Now you see it. Like when they got to the DS, I said, that's your toughest matchup the rest of the way because you weren't ready for it. Like they got caught with their pants down because they had to play the wild card round. So they had to, didn't have the rotation set up. You had to start Ranger. You had to make it work. You had to survive in Atlanta and then try to win that series and move on. And they did that. And once I thought they could do it. And then once they got through that, I said, they're going to win the pennant. Because then the Dodgers get taken out. So now you're playing the Padres, who are good, but they're not the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. And, you could see it coming, but still like when they win and the rally tails waving, it's like, how did this happen? How did you look out of the scene and it's like out of a movie, because it just happened. There was no build up. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And when we're on the field after the game and they're doing the trophy presentation and the scoreboard says Phillies 2022 nationally champions, you're like, they're really going to the World Series. Like it's really neat. it happened like 07 was amazing, but you rode like, to the playoffs. It didn't just like happen and they were there. Like
Right.
they had to fight their way in and chase down the Mets. And that was in itself really neat, but this was different. This kind of, you didn't believe in them at all until they finally clinched. And then they're like, all right, well, they probably got a good shot in St. Louis. And next thing you know, you put your head down, they're in the World Series. It's neat.
That 07 team that finally made the playoffs and the 08 team. I remember the 07 team. That was a team that got hot at the right time to make the playoffs. The 08 team had a little bit more stability from what I remember off the top of my head. And then they clinched things and sealed things up there in September. That was a team that got better as the season went on. This Phillies team kind of hit a bit of a wall in September, but then, man, in October, they were ready to rock. When you look at this matchup with the Houston Astros, answer this question for me or complete this sentence. The Phillies will win the World Series if what? What has to happen on a Phillies side of things to win this World Series against the Houston Astros?
Two things have to happen. They have to at least split in Houston, and you need Ranger Suarez to give you a quality, I don't want to say quality start because that's a quality start doesn't mean enough, but like a really solid night in Game 3. And that's how they will win the World Series.
Okay. All right. Love it. That's a great start. Has Rhys Hoskins already played himself on to next year's Phillies squad, or do you think the Phillies are going to move on from him in the offseason?
It's a great question because it's probably a lot easier to answer, if they don't make the playoffs. But I think, John Middleton said he's the soul of the team. Bryce Harper referred to him as the captain. I don't know. I think he's here. And you look at his stats, like it's a lot of up and down, but his season-ending stats are right there with the top first baseman in baseball. Guys that like Matt Olson, a guy that you would be like, I'll take him. It's like very similar OPS plus. I think he's here. And then again, everyone's like trade Rhys Hoskins. Like my cousin's texting me as they're about to win Game 3. Trade him after. I'm like, dude, enjoy the win. But anyway. But he like speaks on behalf of like the rest of the fans. I feel like what are you going to get? Like no one's really like you look at the rest of the league. People aren't like knocking down the door for first baseman. It's not really it's not a shortstop. It's not a versatile player. So enjoy him. I think that's what I would say is that I would expect him to be back next year, and he deserves a little more. I'm not going to tell people how to think, but I think if you look at the numbers, he deserves a little more credit than it seems like everybody gives him.
At least now. At least after this. And I agree. And I never, because, my dad, my cousin Greg, my cousin Ron are all on the anti-Rhys Hoskins bandwagon. Trade him. He's terrible. Get him off the team. The whole thing. My one cousin had me put it in his wedding vows. I did the wedding. I officiated his wedding, and I referenced how Rhys Hoskins had to be traded because it was in the wedding vows. And that's how deep it goes. And
that's
here
Philly.
he is. That's Philly. That's Philly. But here he is, man, just mashing, hitting 2-run home runs, 3-run home runs, helping get this team to the World Series. That's a true story. Now, how about I gotta ask you this on the other side of things here. The Houston Astros will beat the Phillies if they do what?
If they win those first 2 games.
Ah, damn it.
No, if you go back 0-2, it's over. And you'll know. I think you'll know by Game 1, really. How good is this Astros lineup? What Justin Verlander is it going to be? Is it the one that Seattle hit around or the one that struck out 11 Yankees? And how they haven't lost since the Phillies beat them the night they clinched. Like this is a really, really good team, and I think you're going to find out how good they are in that first game and if it's a mismatch or not. But I don't think it is. Like I think we watch the Phillies so much, so like we kind of lose track of like maybe how good they are or what an outsider might think of them. So during after they beat the Cardinals, I was thinking to myself, like, if you're a Cardinals fan at Busch Stadium and you're sitting there and you're watching the game, like the scoreboard's up with the lineup, and you're like, oh, who's on the Phillies? You're like, oh, Kyle Schwarber, I know him. Rhys Hoskins, I know him. Bryce Harper, I know him. JT Realmuto, I know him. Nick Castellanos, I know him. Like you can go through the lineup, and that's 5 guys that are legitimate major leaguers, not like deep cuts. Like, not everyone knows who Bryson Stott is or Alec Boehm. I get that. But you put those 5 against another team's 5. I think that's a really, really good lineup that we don't maybe give enough credit to. And again, underperformed through the regular season and now has a chance to, getting hot at the right time. And there's no better time to do that than October.
All right, couldn't agree more. I'm enjoying every second of this, and I hope you are too. Matt Breen, Inquirer.com, doing a phenomenal job. Make sure you guys check out this story, one of his most recent stories on Inquirer.com. It is fantastic. Matt, thank you so much for joining me, man. Much appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Anytime.
Absolutely. Matt Breen, Inquirer.com, joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.